Hey everyone, Pugs here with two new reviews for y'all. Today I'm covering Squiditis and Demolition Doofus. Can somebody say infamous? Well, Squiditis not so much, but Demolition Doofus? Oh yeah, now that's an infamous episode. Seems like season 8 couldn't help but throw one more in there. That's fine, y'all know I love tackling them. Squiditis, for its part, isn't very loved either, but as with most episodes of season 8, it's not really talked about anyway. As always, thank you all for checking out today's video. Your viewership is always appreciated by me. Now, let's just get right into it. In a way, it's kind of funny that I'm reviewing Squiditis a month after I got sick for the first time in well over 5 years. I'm still a little salty about that, by the way, but it was the card that I was dealt, and we move. Anyway, so, Squiditis. No one really talks about this episode, and that's fine because I don't either. I don't really have much to say about it at all. Rewatching it doesn't change that either. It's really just one of those episodes that inspires little in the way of commentary from me. You know how it goes. The name should be more than enough to tip everyone off that this is a Squidward-focused episode, which means it's good then that I find him to be pretty good here, enjoyability-wise, which is usually the case anyway. In this episode, Squidward is channeling the energy of someone who has, or anyone who has ever worked a job during the summer, especially when he's grumbling about it being a beautiful day outside while he's cooped up inside the Krusty Krab at the beginning of the episode. I've had that thought many, many times while working. It's especially painful in the summer considering how much I hate the cold and so bask in the warmth when it is around. You can imagine how pained I am now that we've entered the cold months of the year. Sigh. Anyway. To get to the actual plot of the episode now, Squidward also does the thing that I'm sure many service workers and beyond have also at least fantasized about, faking sick. I personally have never faked sick, and I'm not saying this in a plausible deniability way, I just literally have not done it. But there's a reason why people do it. Alright, I'll stop tangenting now. So Squidward gets this idea to fake being sick so that he can go out and enjoy his day rather than be stuck at the Krusty Krab. And I like this small little bit we see of Squidward and Mr. Krabs' relationship in this episode. I again get that feeling from them that they've known each other for longer than Mr. Krabs and SpongeBob have known each other, which is canon insofar as SpongeBob SquarePants has a canon, but you know what I mean. And it's at times like these that I realize that some of my favorite dynamics in this show, like Mr. Krabs and Squidward's friendship dynamic and Mr. Krabs and SpongeBob's quasi father-son slash mentor-mentee dynamic go together nicely. Now that I just said that, I'm realizing that the dynamic I like between Mr. Krabs and SpongeBob is similar to the dynamic between multiple iterations of Batman and Robin. Anyway, sorry, this review is so unstructured today. I feel like I've talked more about random things than the actual episode, and I can't promise it's gonna get much better, but it probably will. So, the first half of Squiditis is really good to me. There's lots of funny moments between all of the Mr. Krabs scenes, because he's really great in this episode, SpongeBob's dramatics over Squidward's fake sickness, like the gas mask and later when he's talking to Mr. Krabs, and Squidward's commentary. I also liked how Squidward's plan actually failed at first because that scene between him and Mr. Krabs was good, and also a good commentary on corporate culture. Especially when you consider it in light of the COVID pandemic that we're currently experiencing. And yes, I said currently. Just because society suddenly decided that everything is back to normal now doesn't mean it is. I mean, I'd really like everyone to take a second and just ask themselves what changed between 2020 and now. We've got vaccines, but how often are most people even getting them? And last I checked, everyone is still talking about getting COVID all the time. So those vaccines aren't really providing immunity. So, and that's not even getting into all of the lasting damage that COVID does to your body. I'd be here all day if I really wanted to get into that, but seriously, it's not over. Moving on, I think where Squiditis begins to slow down and fall apart on me is after Squidward goes home. Watching SpongeBob become a hypochondriac after this is not really that fun to watch. Neither is him trying to figure out the home remedies for sickness. Eventually, SpongeBob gets sent home too, which ruins Squidward's day of relaxation, so hey, at least there's some universal justice coming out of this. Unfortunately though, this isn't all that funny either. Well, SpongeBob showing up at Squidward's house was pretty funny, I'll admit that much. Poor Mr. Krabs, in the meantime, is unable to run the ship, which is why he should probably hire more employees. And when SpongeBob and Squidward return to the Krusty Krab, we see that Mr. Krabs has gotten sick too. But hey, looks like SpongeBob found a cure in romantic comedies, right? Squiditis was another alright episode. The first half was really, really good, but then the second half fell off because it was a lot more boring than the first, and that's a shame because this episode could have easily been an amazing tier episode if it had been able to keep up. And so, as is, I think that this episode works best on the high end of my good tier, where it comes in with a score of 7.9 out of 10. Alright, let's talk notoriety, as in, let's talk about an episode with a lot of notoriety. In this case, the episode is Demolition Doofus. On the notoriety scale that I'm making up right now, this episode falls below the hard hitters like One Course Meal or A Pal for Gary. I'd say it's also below Boating Buddies and House Fancy. I think this episode is more the level of Cephalopod Lodge in notoriety, probably a bit above that. Choir Boys level? Yeah, that fits, I think. And what may come as a surprise to no one, I've never had strong personal opinions on Demolition Doofus. It's kind of funny how true that is for so many of these notorious episodes. So let's talk about whether I think this episode deserves its notoriety or not. The short answer is no. The long answer is the rest of this review. Demolition Doofus is, of course, a boating school episode, and so it wastes no time in getting us straight to SpongeBob's boating test, where he predictably crashes multiple times. This beginning is pretty engaging, although I wouldn't say anything here is particularly funny either. Nothing is trying to be funny though, so I'm fine with this in the sense that at least the comedy is not failing. So anyway, SpongeBob crashes enough times that Mrs. Puff inflates to the point of making the boat float. And then, because of SpongeBob, they end up crashing into the lighthouse, which results in Mrs. Puff being unable to puff herself up. This is pretty bad, as in a rather dismal outcome for Mrs. Puff. As is the norm with infamous episodes, one of the most common accusations that Demolition Doofus is hit with is that it contains abuse, in this case Mrs. Puff abuse. Y'all know by now how I feel about this accusation. I've denied it multiple times with Gary, and I've laughed in the face of it with Squidward. This is no different. Like, I see where this idea comes from, but first of all, Mrs. Puff is only mistreated in the first part of this episode, so I don't really think you can call it overkill. I also think that what happens in this episode is par for the course for a boating school episode. It has always been this way, with SpongeBob harming Mrs. Puff in some capacity, since day one. Now, I may have an issue or two with this writing decision, in that Mrs. Puff only exists to be hurt because she is SpongeBob's teacher, and is, thus far, not given much of a character outside of that, but in the context of this episode, I have no problems. So, anyway, after SpongeBob makes a pretty bad and morbid joke, which I find to be out of character since in my humble opinion he would not make light of something of this magnitude, Mrs. Puff goes ballistic, which is well within her rights. It's kind of funny seeing murderous rage depicted in this cartoon show, especially since Are You Happy Now wasn't that long ago. Maybe there's a running theme of characters being pushed to murder this season. Anyway, also funny is the joke with the doctor tranquilizing both Mrs. Puff and SpongeBob. I've always liked that doctor character. Another reason why this episode is notorious is because of Mrs. Puff, specifically her homicidal inclinations. And honestly, I disagree with that because I think it's hilarious seeing her have this homicidal rage, and I really like her in this episode because of that. Yes, it feels a bit out of place, but that's because the whole point is that she's been pushed to her limits. Also, even though it's out of place, it still fits perfectly both in the show and in her character. And this is coming from me, someone who greatly prefers when SpongeBob gets along with everyone. But maybe I'm just ecstatic that we get to see more of Mrs. Puff for once, having her do something else other than simply teaching SpongeBob. Though, I guess here she's trying to get him killed / kill him herself. But hey, a woman needs hobbies, am I right? I also think that Mary Jo Catlett did a really great job, like even better than usual, with voicing Mrs. Puff in this episode. The demolition aspect of Demolition Doofus comes into play soon enough, as the casualties of the latest demolition derby come rolling into the hospital, where they continue to demolish each other even though they're in a medbay. This part is pretty entertaining, just like the doctor says, and Mrs. Puff gets an idea, which is actually a pretty good one, and that is to enter SpongeBob into this demolition derby. I say it's a good idea because I can already see that this will be funny. The whole setup reminds me of Krusty Crushers, and while that wasn't the best episode, I still did like it well enough. And then just like Captain Lutefisk says, SpongeBob's actually a natural at this demolition derby stuff, considering what he's like behind the wheel, so I love this idea. We then get to the Demolition Derby, and it's just as entertaining as I expected. Definitely better than Krusty Krusher's, that's for sure. Mrs. Puff's cackling throughout the entire thing is great, and the action sequence of this whole scene is great and full of so many entertaining visuals. And of course, I love to see SpongeBob win in the most unlikely of circumstances. Once the chaos really gets started, as marked by Greenhorn Rag, things continue to be, like, really amusing. I just love what I'm seeing. Mrs. Puff eventually has enough, though, and decides to take care of SpongeBob herself. And I love this part too, because Mrs. Puff is such a boss here. Where did she even get that enormous vehicle? Mrs. Puff has kind of lost herself to the murderous rage here, but I think she's a little justified, and it's fun to watch anyway, so who cares? And that's a big thing about the reactions I see to this episode. Like, who actually cares? Just enjoy it. Or don't. I guess I can't be too mad at people making think pieces for episodes they don't like, considering my Stuck in the Ringer review, huh? Anyway, Mrs. Puff and SpongeBob crash, and she's able to regain her puff again, though her school crumbles in the process. Status quo is king. Demolition Doofus was so much better than I expected. See what happens when I dislodge the 2013 to 2016 criticism stick from my ass? It's so easy to enjoy things when people aren't telling you that something is bad. And that's the story of so many of these reviews, by the way. This episode was really funny and super amusing, and I wonder if that's because I like the Fast and Furious movies. I'm sure that's a contributing factor in some capacity. Anyway, all of this is why this episode is going in my amazing tier, where it comes in with a score of 9.2 out of 10. As always, I'll be ending this video with some closing thoughts of mine. For whatever reason, these are two episodes I could have really gone on some long tangents or soapboxes about if I really wanted to, though I guess I can do that with any episode if I'm in the right headspace for it, so I guess this means that right now I really want to rant or rave about something at length. I guess that's good to know. But seriously, while it is fun to go through these old infamous episodes, it also makes me sad in a way that the show's reputation was hurt. I mean, not that bad, because obviously it still makes bank and it's still going, by people who happen to not like certain episodes, who then just made a lot of assertions that weren't really true or nice. I think it's funny that people have and still do accuse me of doing the same thing for Arcane. It's a full circle moment for sure. It certainly gives me a more expansive perspective, except there's quite a few key differences between the situations, like age of the audience, and what internet landscape looked like at the time, and availability of the media in question, and more. So, not the same, but still, interesting to consider. Well, anyway, I don't think I'll be getting into that unless I sit and organize my thoughts around it. And since I'm not doing that right now, I'm gonna go ahead and close things out here, and I'll see y'all in the next review.